10 years ago, Fender and Signal collaborated on a cardboard Stratocaster. It was built entirely out of cardboard and it looks insanely cool. And ever since I saw theirs, I wanted to try and make my own. My goal isn't necessarily to recreate the guitar that they made, but rather to take inspiration from it and make mine how I see fit. Ideally, I want this thing to come out ultra lightweight, like 3 or 4 pounds, if not less, because cardboard is a relatively light material and pretty strong for its weight, so I might as well see how light I can make this thing. The general idea here is to laminate corrugated cardboard stock into blanks, which I can use to build a guitar body and neck, all out of cardboard. And I want to laminate the cardboard, not cast it in resin, so the finished guitar should come out very lightweight and really be like 70% air, since the corrugated cardboard is mostly hollow. While corrugated cardboard is very strong for its weight, making it strong enough to withstand string tension on a guitar is going to be a big challenge, especially for the neck. Here I laminated the body blank, and I basically drenched each piece of cardboard in resin and stacked them on some runners, which will keep the blank propped up and allow the excess resin to flow out of the corrugation. This should result in a lightweight, strong cardboard blank, which I can use for the body. And this is roughly the same process that Signal and Fender used on the original cardboard guitar build. And while I can use their original project for reference, their video doesn't really go into detail about how the guitar was made, so I've still got a lot of figuring out to do on my end to pull this off. I don't really know if I could have just thrown this thing through the planer. Maybe I could have, but I didn't want to risk it, so the safest option to plane this thing down was just to use the router sled. And since it's really mostly air, not that much actual cardboard given the structure of the material, it's really quick to router plane. And now we can kind of see the vision for this build with being able to kind of see through the material depending on how you're looking at it. I had originally wanted to use old cardboard boxes for this project, but the issue with the boxes is that any dents or creases in the box will throw off the design on the final guitar. So the best option to get a real clean final result is to use new cardboard that doesn't have any deforms in it. The cardboard sheets I used are made of recycled material, and I think most cardboard is, so it still is in essence a recycled material guitar. It just maybe could have been recycled if I'd used boxes, if that makes sense. The laminated cardboard is pretty easy to shape and it machines pretty well considering it's kind of a unique structure. I've never really tried to build a guitar out of a corrugated material. It's only odd because of its density or lack thereof, but really I could just machine it like any other guitar build. At this point, I've got the body coming into shape and it's time to focus on the neck. Before building the neck, I wanted to do some strength comparisons on different variations of lamination for the cardboard, since making the neck as strong as possible is going to be really critical. There's basically 2 orientations at which the cardboard can be cut. I can cut it against the grain, which cuts through the corrugation like I did for the guitar body. The other way I can cut the cardboard is with the grain, which essentially cuts in line with the corrugation, and it only leaves the holes at the short end of each strip instead of the long side. My idea here is to alternate between the 2 orientations to give it more strength. I actually got this idea when I saw a cardboard chair called the Wiggles side chair at the London Design Museum a few months ago, which used this technique of alternating the laminations, and I figured it was probably made this way either because it looks better aesthetically or because it's just stronger. Either way, I figured I'd give it a shot and see how much stronger, if at all, it is. So I laminated 2 blocks, one with the same orientation as the guitar body, showing through all the holes in the corrugation, and another with the alternated pattern. And I don't really have a great way of at least scientifically testing the material strength. Best I came up with was to clamp each block in the same exact position and to use a digital scale to see how much force it takes to break them in half. The non-alternated block broke in half at 37 pounds of force, which was honestly less than I was expecting, and that's not a great outlook for creating a neck. The alternated block was significantly stronger, breaking in half at 125 pounds of force. And obviously this isn't a perfect experiment, but it's clear that the alternated pattern is still quite a bit stronger. So this is going to be my plan for the neck, which does need all the strength it can get in order to withstand the string tension. I believe Fender used a custom cardboard design for their neck, which had thicker walls between the corrugation in order to increase the neck strength. And I couldn't find anywhere to source cardboard like that, so trying this alternated lamination is the best idea that I could come up with. I actually started this project here with the neck, but at the time here, I didn't know the best way to laminate the cardboard strips. So as you can see, I'm more so painting the glue onto each strip versus dunking them like I did for the body. And this turned out to be less effective in terms of strength, which makes sense because when I'm dunking the strips, the resin saturates the entire cardboard piece, including the corrugation, whereas painting them only stabilizes the outer walls of the cardboard strip. And here, after planing it down, you can see how the corrugation is kind of fuzzy and soft looking. So in order to get max strength on this blank, I mixed up a batch of resin and poured it through the blank, which will stabilize the corrugation and ideally flow all the way through the blank, leaving the corrugation still hollow. Obviously, if I wanted the strongest possible blank, I would just fully cast it in resin. But being that the body is extremely lightweight, I wanted to try and match the neck as to not cause neck dive on the finished guitar. The underside of the blank didn't completely drain of resin through the flutes in the cardboard, so I just made that the backside of the neck, which will get mostly carved away and open the flutes back up. I routed out a slot for the truss rod and inserted a maple plug over it, which will run down the entire length of the neck. The maple plug is pretty thin, so I don't know how much strength it's going to add, if any, to the neck, but it's really the only way I could get a truss rod in the neck, which should be really important in counteracting the string tension. I got the blank set up on my table saw fret cutting sled and got all the fret slots cut in, and I got it cut out and routed to shape. Unfortunately, I don't think this neck is gonna work. Oddly enough, I think the strength is potentially there, but the shape just isn't. It's just too rough and difficult to stop the corrugation in various layers from peeling off. You can see the edges are kind of jagged due to like layers peeling off on the edge. I guess it could work, but it wouldn't look very pretty. I guess I could have kept experimenting with different designs, but I don't know how to work around the peeling of layers, and I'm not sure I'd be able to make a good feeling neck going that route. So I ultimately caved and went the fully saturated resin route, which will essentially turn this into a solid, dense cardboard epoxy neck. The good thing about doing it this way is that it'll almost certainly be strong enough to withstand the string tension, and it should shape nicely and look really good. The downside though is that it's going to end up being significantly heavier than the previous version, so I'll have to try to remove as much weight as possible from it while still keeping it strong enough so that it doesn't create massive neck dive on the finished guitar. I mentioned neck dive earlier in the video. Neck dive is when the guitar is not balanced and the neck and headstock droop down towards the floor when holding it because the neck is heavier than the body, and that's a really annoying flaw to have on a guitar, so I'm going to try to avoid that if possible here. This neck is basically being built the same way as the first one, with the wood strip covering the truss rod, except on this one it doesn't run the entire length of the neck, just where the truss rod is. I sanded in the radius to the fretboard and also had to fill in some air pockets left over on the bottom side of the neck. And now that I had the neck fit to the body, I could position all of my pockets for the electronics. And I'm just going with 2 lipstick single coils on this one. There's no particular reason for choosing them other than that I had a pair to use. Next challenge is trying to figure out a way to mount this bridge to this body. There's really nothing to screw into in this material, so I had to figure out a way to mount the bridge, and the best idea that I had was to make a bridge backplate that will get inset on the back of the guitar, and the bridge will attach to that. And I could have just used a wood block for this, that would have worked fine. But instead I used a piece of the offcut from the body blank and I submerged it in a resin bath. And this will get inset into the back of the guitar body and essentially create a clamp between the bridge and the plate with the cardboard body in between. This was the best idea I could come up with on how to mount a bridge to this material. I need to be able to position this bridge plate perfectly on the back side of the guitar, and this is really critical so that the bridge gets mounted in the right spot. I covered the top and bottom in painter's tape so that it would drill a hole through the tape on both sides, and then I can use that as a reference point. I also made a cavity cover for the electronics out of the same block that was the offcut, and this has magnets inlaid on the edge which pair with screw heads that I hot glued into the corrugation on the guitar. This is a fairly common way of attaching a cavity cover on a lot of guitars. I usually use screws, but this is a more straightforward approach here given the material. carved in a couple contours on the body, a belly carve on the back, and an arm bevel on the top. Pretty standard carves for an electric guitar. I mainly thought they might look cool with the corrugated cardboard design. Carving them in was super simple and quick, but it left all the flutes of the corrugation filled with cardboard. I initially tried just blowing them out with a leaf blower, but that didn't work, and neither did the air nozzle on the compressor. So I ended up just taking a little wire and spent a few hours poking through each flute that was clogged. The neck mounts on like a normal bolt-on neck with the neck plate. Similar concept to the way I did the bridge. The neck, although it's not carved yet, is significantly heavier than the body. Like as it stands right now, it's gonna have neck dive. It's not balanced correctly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carve the neck out and see how much weight I can remove from that. And then we'll rebalance it, see if it gets any better. And hopefully I won't have to add any additional weight to the body just to keep this thing super light. The neck, prior to getting shaped, is too heavy for the body. It's gonna have neck dive, which I'm obviously trying to avoid. So the goal here in the carving is to take away as much material as I can without compromising the strength of the neck. And there's really not a good method to figure this out at this point. The neck isn't ready to get strung up to where I can legitimately check the string tension. So I'm kind of just going by feel here, which is not the most ideal method, but I carved it down to the point where the guitar basically balanced on the neck plate area, which should be good enough to avoid neck dive and still leave it having as much strength as possible given the circumstances. Got it fretted up, which I didn't encounter any issues with. In the past, I've tried creating mostly epoxy necks, and I've run into issues with the neck cracking due to the expansion created by the frets. No issues like that on this one. The cardboard kind of acts as a fiberglass in this case, making it a lot stronger than just a pure resin neck. I'm gonna clear coat the body as well, and just needed to go through and pick out any little pieces of cardboard that folded over during the routing or sanding process. This was also just like the most tedious part of the project by far, considering that there's thousands of cardboard flutes in this guitar. This took like an entire day just picking at those specs, and I probably didn't get every single one, but it does look a lot better than it did. Here's every part that I've spent the last few weeks making: the body, the bridge plate support thing, cavity cover, and neck. Now I'm just gonna clear coat them. I don't usually clear coat outside, but it just rained, and there's no rain in the forecast, and it's pretty still out, so just for my enjoyment, I'm gonna do it outside. I wanted to clear coat the body because it's gonna seal the cardboard again, which will hopefully stop it from absorbing any moisture. And I'm not sure if this material could warp, but I'd rather just not find out. And clear coating the neck and other parts mainly so that they're shiny and more scratch resistant than just the resin would be. And at this point, I'm on the home stretch for this build. I just gotta get the clear coat on the neck sanded flat because it comes out with a slight orange peel texture after painting. And then a little bit of fretwork, just leveling the frets and recrowning them and getting the whole neck polished. Fortunately, I was able to get the neck light enough to mostly resolve the neck dive issue. There's maybe still a tad bit of neck dive, but it's barely noticeable, and I could probably solve this just by adding some lead washers somewhere in the body, like on the switch or output jack or something. I will hook up the finished guitar to the scale and see what the final weight is once it's all put together. Maybe the most annoying part of this entire build was just feeding the electronics wires through their holes in the body. It just doesn't leave a clean hole drilling through this material, so I pretty much had to use a wire and basically fish the wire through the holes, which was kind of a frustrating process, but I eventually worked it out. It's all done. I will play a demo on this before the video's over. And the way it's set up right now, it's got pretty decent action. I'm happy with it. Honestly, it plays really well and it sounds pretty good. It's got a pretty cool effect. It's kind of like looking through a screen. When you're looking at it from close, you can only see through certain spots of the body. But if you move it further, and you have to get it, perfectly lined up with the camera lens. If you get to a certain distance, you can pretty much see through the entire guitar. All the corrugation becomes kind of invisible and you can just see kind of the outline of the guitar, which is really cool. I wouldn't say it's like the most comfortable guitar to like hold and play. This material is just like really sticky on fiber cloth. You have kind of rough edges in certain areas along the side of the guitar. I wanted to leave it like this just because it's basically a full cardboard build. But like I could have laminated kind of a binding on the entire side of the guitar that would have basically put a nice wood side to the guitar. But for this one, I just wanted to do full cardboard. I have not weighed this finished guitar yet. Judging just by holding it, it does feel really light, but let's find out exactly what it weighs. We got 4.42 pounds, almost 4.5 pounds, which is like 34 pounds lighter than the bronze guitar. So yeah, really light. That's, for me, that's a true accomplishment. I originally had just regular slinky strings on here, and I had to tension the truss rod more than I would have liked to bring it back flat with string tension. So I took those off and put some super slinky strings on, which required obviously less tension on the truss rod. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I am not the first to create a cardboard guitar. Signal and Fender have created a few different variations of cardboard guitars. So that's obviously the inspiration behind this build. And I'll put a link to their original cardboard guitar in the description if you want to check that out. Yeah, I mean, it came out good. Other than having to redo the neck, this project went as good as I could have asked for. Overall, plays really well. One kind of cool thing, which I'm not really sure if it's a feature or a flaw yet, is that since the body is so kind of flexible compared to a normal wooden electric guitar body, you can add a lot of vibrato just by like applying a little bit of force with your arm here, which of course you can do on normal guitar too, but it's just like way more responsive on this than a normal guitar. I will leave a video with a demo here at the end. I do have guitars listed for sale on my site currently. The link to that will be in the description. And thanks for watching.